Check how many kilos, check.
Back?
Yes. Let's go.
Oh, we woke up.
Yeah, it is heavy, huh?
Really? Olá, nesse vídeo você vai conhecer a Elisa Doucette. Eu conheci ela em Chiang Mai, na Tailândia, e ela é uma garota muito interessante por vários motivos. Um deles, ela é nômade, como eu. Então tem várias diferenças em relação a viajar sozinho, sendo uma mulher, do que sendo um homem. E ela comenta um pouco sobre isso. E também ela escreve uma coluna online na Forbes, exatamente na revista Forbes. E foi interessante conversar com ela, a gente bateu um papo de em torno de uns 30 minutos. E a gente fala bastante sobre governo, sobre empreendedorismo, quais são as diferenças entre uma mulher nômade e um homem nômade. E como é que o empreendedorismo tem mudado a vida de várias pessoas, sendo que o governo, em alguns países, não apoia tanto iniciativas, não dão ajudas em taxações de impostos. Então essa conversa é muito interessante e ela fala se a gente tem uma revolução digital ou não. Porque alguns anos atrás a gente não tinha laptop, a gente não tinha internet e agora a gente pode realmente morar em qualquer lugar. E foi muito interessante, espero que você goste. Meu nome é Marcos Lucas, eu sou fundador de diversos projetos na internet e um deles agora é o Libertação Digital, que eu vou falar um pouquinho mais sobre várias coisas interessantes para você. Então vejo você em breve, até mais. Hi guys, I'm here with someone very special today, Elisa Doucette. And I met her, I think that was like 2 weeks ago at the Dynamite Circle conference. And like this girl is smart. She writes for Forbes. She's like living an international lifestyle. And she's just an inspiration for a lot of people. How did you start traveling and working at the same time?
I come from a very small state in the United States. I come from Portland, Maine. Up until the age of 31, I had never really left my state other than like a 5-day vacation.
Wow.
I didn't have a passport, never traveled internationally except for Canada, which is right beside Maine, so it doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
And I had been freelancing for about a year as a freelance writer, and really had realized that I'd kind of, the writing that I wanted to do and the networking and connections I wanted to make weren't being facilitated as well in Maine. I kind of ran with more of like the New York, San Francisco tech crowd.
I see.
So I decided that I really needed to leave. Like I would have to move somewhere else if I wanted to expand my career. And through a very long, involved series of events, I ended up doing an interview for Forbes for location-independent entrepreneurs. And I ended up interviewing this guy named Dan Andrews. He runs Tropical MBA, runs Dynamite Circle. And he told me all about his business, and I was really intrigued. He really had a good thing going and really sold me on the mission of location-independent lifestyle and being an entrepreneur from anywhere on the planet. And then randomly, about a month later, he posted a job that they were hiring for. They wanted to expand this brand that they had of online publishing with blogs and podcasts in this membership community. And so they wanted to hire someone to write a ton of content for them. Wasn't really sure that I wanted to go work for someone else. I applied for the position at the very last minute. I actually started researching it about 12 hours before the deadline.
Wow.
Researched it for 12 hours straight, and instead of applying for a job where I would write a bunch of copy for people, I created a position wherein I'd become the managing editor of their publishing company and basically like help them with the strategy and the direction and the management tasks of running a publishing brand.
Wow, that's amazing. And I saw her at the conference, like she's so friendly. Everybody wants to talk to her. And one thing that I noticed, I went to a conference in Lithuania. The Blacksmith Entrepreneurship Camp. And the funny thing, like most of the girls were saying, like, we're gonna go to a conference of someone that has a blog. That's weird. But it makes sense. Like nowadays, more and more you can actually like travel and work at the same time. Like 20 years ago, we like hardly had internet. Such a big revolution.
It really is, and that's one of the things that I was extremely interested in living in Maine was that because all of my work was online, I wrote for all online publications. I wrote for, worked with online entrepreneurs to do their like branding and strategy, I kind of started realizing that the space of the internet gave us freedom to be wherever we wanted to be, which is something that is kind of revolutionary. I mean, even with the internet of, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s, you still were tethered to wherever your massive desktop computer was. Yeah. You know, it wasn't until laptops really started becoming affordable, not even more than like 10 years ago, that people were able to be anywhere.
Wow, exactly. Amazing insights. And one thing that you were saying was you were like 31 and then you decided to actually go on this journey. What kind of things scared you and how like you overcame that?
Well, for me, a big part of it was I didn't always necessarily, it wasn't that I didn't buy into location independent lifestyle. Like, I knew people who traveled a lot and some that worked as they traveled. I thought they were cool. But I was actually working first as an insurance sales agent. Wow. In my state, and then I had basically moved up to the management office for my state for an extremely large national insurance company, and was basically, you know, a sales manager for a line of business and doing all the marketing and sales and tech support and everything. So I kind of had a life that was on a very fast trajectory. So it just like hadn't even crossed into my mind the need to go and do this stuff.
So you had like a normal, traditional kind of job, 9 to 5.
Very, and I actually loved that job. Like, I when I decided to quit that job, I quit it with the basic thought process. Like, I really wanted to try giving the writing thing a shot. And I was like, well, if I leave on good conditions, at least if I totally miff it, like, and can't be successful as a writer at all, I can come back to this company and this job that I really enjoy. Yeah. And hopefully they'll take me back.
Yeah. And that's the interesting, like, having a plan B is crucial for a lot of people. Because we need to have plan B to have, like, the security that we need. And like, I'm really proud of you sharing those stories too. And how do you compare, like, your job before? I'm not saying that it was bad, like, was a normal, was a cool job that you liked, with the lifestyle that you have right now. Like, can you trace some parallels there?
It's a little bit hard because it's two such different lives. When I go back home now, I only go back home usually once a year, back to the States, and when I go home, people just they're kind of like, you know, you're different.
Yeah. Your parents gonna kill you when they just once a year for Christmas.
No, my parents sadly know that there will be no holiday visits. It's cold in Maine. There's snow and ice at Christmas. I'm not going anywhere near that. When I compared the two kind of lifestyles, my job before was very focused. I always made a conscious effort with my job to view it almost entrepreneurially. So I worked within an extremely structured corporate environment, but I was extremely fortunate in that all of the bosses that I ever had, all the managers, basically gave me free rein to be, you know, to do what I needed to do, to kind of ask forgiveness, not permission, and do whatever was necessary to move our departments, our agencies, our companies forward. So now doing this lifestyle, that's pretty much what I do with my work all the time now, is just work on my clients, moving their stuff forward.
Be able to live anywhere, going to Saigon, Chiang Mai.
Yeah, I do travel a fair bit more than I did living in Portland, Maine. So I travel and see a lot more people, but in honesty, I'm probably one of the least interesting location-independent people ever. I'm someone who works at Starbucks 4 days a week because I enjoy the routine and consistency. It's familiar, I know it, I can stick in my headphones and work for 6 hours.
A lot of people that I know, they don't have a schedule, including myself. I'm trying to policy myself now so I can like wake up early and do everything I need to do. But I have friends, they work like in the morning, like 2 a.m., and everything is not really fixed. Do you have like any tips for people that can have like this consistency on the routine?
I have an extremely consistent routine, so but it's also a very conscious decision. So for me to be able to get up, I wake up between 6 and 7 every morning. For me to be able to wake up between 6 and 7 every morning, I am in bed. I'm asleep usually by about 10 o'clock at night. By 9 o'clock, I have a kind of personal rule. I turn off my laptop, I turn off TVs, I turn off my cell phone. I turn off any kind of screen, and the only thing I can do is basically go into my bedroom and sit with my Kindle and read until I fall asleep.
That's a really good tip, because when you're like looking at the computer screen, it doesn't make you sleepy at all. No. So you gotta turn this off.
Well, and you're constantly you're being stimulated. Computers are very interactive and very on demand.
Yeah.
So like anytime you're kind of in that mental space, it's hard to shut off. Wherein when I'm reading, I'm just kind of absorbing information and processing, and eventually kind of drift off.
So what would you say they're the challenges and awards of having this different lifestyle, like comparing to being back home where you know everything already, and then like going to like Chiang Mai or Saigon or a different city that everything is new, different kind of food, different kind of people, and interesting people too. At least like for me, I think like networking is amazing because we're more free. Even like interviewing her right now, I wouldn't done that before if I was in a normal job, unless I was a journalist. But I suck at it, so that's like
not even close.
so that's a very interesting, like networking, knowing people and sharing knowledge. Like, what do you think about all this?
I love networking. Networking, connecting people is kind of one of my greatest happinesses.
Yeah.
I love meeting people and talking to people and getting to know them, which is really interesting because I'm actually a very introverted person, and I need a lot I need a lot of my own space. So I love being out and being on and everything else, but I like being able to kind of go back and have me time.
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the greatest challenges I've found being on the road is there's so many opportunities to always be meeting people and always be going out and always be, hanging out at cafes or going to co-working spaces. And for me personally, I love it. So I'll love it to the point that it's detrimental to me because I want to go and hang out with people and have fun, but then I'm exhausted, on my other time, so I can't do the stuff that I need to do in my downtime because I spend that entire time kind of recharging from the big energy output.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I met a former FBI agent the last time when I was interviewing her, and I was like, how would I do that before? I was working as a developer in Tokyo, and I was working for like 10 hours a day. It was impossible to actually go out and meet people and have this kind of connections and networking. I feel really, really happy and grateful for knowing more and more interesting people now than back home. Not saying that my friends back home sucks, they don't. but there's a certain amount of people that you can meet if you are in the bubble. And like getting out of the bubble, like you can do like so much more. So what do you think are the main fears, like people in general, and especially girls, they have before going to travel that's out of the comfort zone?
It definitely is a different set of fears and I guess challenges or things to be aware of when you're a girl on the road, in large part just because our safety is so much more of an issue. But on the same token, for me, I constantly try to frame it in my mind, remembering I come from the United States where, in New York, the state that I come from, Maine, they had a horrific year last year. It was the worst year the state's ever had in terms of homicides, and I think there were like 60. But, I'm aware of many more of the bigger cities that, 60 homicides is like a month. And so there's dangers everywhere in the world. And for me as a girl, I just try to be more aware of myself and my surroundings. It sometimes means, given the option of walking home at 2 a.m. through an area where there's some really shady type of stuff, or paying to get a taxi.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, air to get a taxi. I'm going to stay at a place that's a little bit nicer and has an actual solid lock on the door, rather than like the, $8 guest house hostel that all my guy friends are able to stay at.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was telling her, I was in a hostel. I'm not gonna say the name of the hostel. 1 a.m. people start fighting, like was insane. In the morning, there were like blood everywhere. So like, yeah, I don't want to scare anyone though. Like traveling is amazing.
Should travel, it's great.
Yeah, but you try to be safe, and especially if it's a girl, like you shouldn't mind paying a little bit more to have a more comfortable place to stay. Like make sure it's maybe like a 3-star. This one's a 3-star hotel, and it's pretty good, and it's affordable.
That's it. And so I end up, spending a little bit more. I check my luggage now because I generally need to have so many more clothes. There are places I go that I have to have long dresses, or I have to have a shirt that covers, all of me. In part because of safety, and in part because that's the culture of the place that I'm going. And for me, it's very important to respect those customs. And so I know a lot of people don't necessarily agree with it, but it's opened a lot of doors for me, being respectful and not necessarily being the quiet, submissive, abroad woman that everyone imagines women are forced into being, but just being respectful.
Yeah, exactly. Even when I was studying in Japan, I had like some friends, and they were doing like anything they wanted to do. We need to be respectful to the manners. We need to be like polite to people, and that we should do that like all the time. It's not because you're in a different country you're gonna be breaking everything, or like just be very respectful. How do you get to write for Forbes?
I have the worst story ever. So many of my friends who are journalists and reporters and writers have these, long drawn out, I wrote this amazing pitch and speech and went to the editor and the room jumped up in applause and I was able to get what I got. I was just going along writing my little blog that I thought, my mom, dad, and maybe 7 other people read.
I'm going to put the link here so you guys can check it out. Maybe more people are going to follow you.
Basically, I got an email one day. I had started getting my blog re-syndicated, so meaning this particular site, Brazen Careerist, took my RSS link and fed it onto their site for content. And so occasionally they'd feature stuff, occasionally they'd ask me to write a feature post. And because in part I had gotten to know so many of these people through Twitter. Twitter is my absolute social networking medium of choice, always. And I'd gotten to know all these people through Twitter, gotten this job on Brazen Careerist, not even really a job, just gotten my blog re-syndicated. And I got an email one day from this woman, her name was Caroline, and she said, really like all of your writing. I've been following you for a while. We're looking to expand the Forbes contributor pool, and we're looking for someone who could write about young professional women, but from more of a modern take. At the time, I didn't know, but it was kind of more of like a Sheryl Sandberg lean-in type of perspective. She's like, and I'd really, like to talk to you more about this. To which I responded back to her in a very much nicer way, but essentially saying, are you real? Because I kind of expected the next email to be like, just give me your social security number and bank account and we'll set you up. Your first payment will be coming right in, I promise. And so she, verified she was real, told me I could call the switchboard, ask for her. And so within a week, they had set me up with my own column online column on Forbes.com. I write for the Forbes Women channel. Not nearly as often as I should. If my editor catches this, she's going to send me an email being like, why don't you post anymore? So yeah, I basically write on the columns called Shattering Glass. So I started writing on kind of the glass ceiling belief that so many people have, that there's things that hold us down. My opinion is very much, of course there's things that hold us down. There's things that hold everyone down. Some people have thicker glass ceilings than other people, but everyone has some sort of limitation they believe in. Your life should be, it's a thick limitation, but it's glass. Your life should be about figuring out how to shatter the glass and like get beyond yourself.
Yeah, a few days ago, I think it was in a magazine or on a blog post, it got very famous. The people were saying, like this author was saying that, like, why the generation Y is unhappy. Mm-hmm. And it pissed me off. I was like, that person is old. That's why he's saying like because right now we have so many more possibilities than we had before. We have the internet. We have like knowledge everywhere. We can have training courses, books, information on how to build a business, on how to relocate to Thailand. We have like such an amazing vast knowledge right now, and we gotta use it. And I don't believe the Generation Y is unhappy. Or maybe if they're not putting effort towards achieving goals in their life, they might feel unhappy.
It's a very interesting. I think in general, people are not necessarily more unhappy than they have been in the past, but I do think people are more open about acknowledging the fact that they're unhappy. You know, in generations past, you just kind of assumed that if you were unhappy with your life, well, it's your life and you just got to live it. Wherein now there's, you know, across all generations, but Generation Y and now Generation Z are kind of more vocal about it. You know, really being unhappy and wanting to change that is what the big difference is now. And I think a lot of people who kind of, I mean, I'm in my mid-30s and I occasionally have the like, you damn kids get off my lawn type of, I had to put in all that time and effort, you should have to do it too, earn your keep. And I'm barely out of Gen Y. So I think that I think that Gen Y is just a lot more vocal about and has a much more public platform now with the dawn of the internet. To be able to say how unhappy they are with the status quo. And because of the opportunities and everything else, they're both voicing it and trying to do something about it. People are, you know, uncomfortable with and or scared of change. Yeah. So as soon as you've got an entire generation of people trying to change the way things were, you don't know exactly what to do with it. So it's got to be, you know, their fault. It's, you know, in the 50s and 60s, the kids had their rock and roll music. 70s and 70s, they had their hippie communes. 80s and 90s. And 90s, like, everyone just wore flannel shirts in the United States and, like, wrote bad poetry. It was, like, the worst revolution ever. But the people now, the kids now are, you know, asking for a real revolution. They're asking to change what people view as a happy, fulfilled life.
And what do you foresee for the future, for the next 10 years, in terms of location dependence, or in terms of how people are going to be interconnecting and trying to be more entrepreneurial?
I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see it happen in two different ways. I think that it's obviously going to continue growing and expanding. And I think a lot more businesses are getting on board with the agility of their employees, wherein before a lot of businesses have, as you said, kind of clung to, you know, this is the way we've always done things, and you need to be in here in the office from X time till X time, regardless of whether you're actually working or not. You know, they're going to start recognizing more and more that the more they empower their employees to think entrepreneurially, the more work and dedication you usually get from your employees. As soon as you give someone the power to kind of manifest their own destiny, they tend to do just that. So over the next 10 years, I think we're going to start seeing a massive shift of corporations starting to let people telecommute, be location independent. You're going to see a lot more people starting to ask for that sort of thing. And then you're going to see a lot of people that kind of start figuring out that if they can do that in this paradigm, then they can easily switch and be able to do it on their own.
What do you think are the 5 main reasons, or a few main reasons you think that young people want to maybe like, I don't know if travel the world, but build a business and be more entrepreneur than before?
I think a lot of young people are becoming very disenfranchised with the franchise, meaning that we are a generation who are seeing our parents who put their blood, sweat, and tears into jobs being laid off, companies going out of business, stuff being, outsourced wherever, whatever. In the United States, we have companies who are embezzling their employees' retirement funds. We have our government bailing out banks because, who has less money than banks? So we kind of see all of this, and it leads us to a place where there's just, where would we be comfortable trusting in the things that our parents' generations trusted in? These things are all kind of crumbling and coming out to really be revealed to be as corrupt as they have been. So for a lot of us, is a safer move at this point to do something that we only have to rely on ourselves. Because unfortunately, it's fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. I'm going to go start a business because I can't believe you're going to take care of me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing because like young people are really realizing that, especially in Brazil, like everything we buy, if you buy a car, it's like 3 times the American price. If you're going to buy a house, it's really, really expensive. And our average wage is like way lower. So one day I was talking to family members and I say, okay, like if I'm gonna have a normal job and I save like $500, $1 a month, it's gonna take me 3 years of my life just to buy a car.
Yep.
Not only young people, but people in general now, they're realizing that's not the safest way, especially in Brazil. If there's something wrong with you and you need to go to the hospital, they're not gonna take care of you. So you better take care of yourself. Entrepreneurship is a way of achieving that.
It's very true, and speaking to the wage gap and everything else, young people, I don't know how it is in Brazil. In the United States, we've got 20-year-olds who are saddled with a debt that's equivalent to a small house purchase because of their university educations and because so many credit card companies and everything else prey on these college students. It's not uncommon at all to see on a university campus any given day credit card solicitors trying to get kids to sign up for credit cards, and if you sign up for a credit card, they give you a candy bar.
Yeah.
And so then, you have this 18-year-old who doesn't know how to manage their finances anyways, all of a sudden with a $5,000 credit limit. Like, that's just a recipe for disaster. So by the time they get to be, 22, 23 years old, you've got someone who's got $30,000, $40,000 in debt already. They can't, take a job that's going to pay them $8 an hour, live on their own, and be expected to pay back this.
Wow. You guys are fucked.
Oh, we're totally screwed. That's, why you'll see in the United States a lot. It's more common. I think it's something like 60 to 70% of young adults from the time that they're like 20 to 28 will have to move back into their parents at some point in time because they just can't maintain the lifestyle. And a lot of people look at it and say, it's a bratty generation. They're just used to being coddled by their parents. But, no one was in this situation before where they're so ill-prepared to deal so quickly with the smack of adult reality.
Wow. Hey, especially when you're 18, a lot of people don't know what they're going to do. If they enter the wrong major, it's horrible. Even on my own case, after Japan, I was working as a developer in Japan, and I knew that it was possible to make money online. And then I quit everything. And I remember my mother, she was saying, yeah, and I was impressed. She was like, yeah, no worries, like you're really young when you chose to do computer science. And I was like, wow, like, it's nice that she knows that, but a lot of people in other families don't have the same support because it is very soon. I know, like MIT, when you take the university, you can do classes in different majors, and that's a much better way of actually knowing what you like. We should provide a better future for our own kids in the future.
It's absolutely. I think teenagers just, unfortunately, you're just exactly like you said, at the age of 18, not prepared to make a decision of what the next 50 years of your life are going to entail. Especially wherein, you know, you just can't even begin to understand the ramifications of that decision either. It's really unfortunate. I struggled with it a bit. I majored in the two most useless, well, one of them ended up being useful for me, but I double majored in creative writing and classical studies with a concentration in Latin.
Wow.
So I basically, which was a step up from when I started university as a vocal performance major. So I decided I wanted something with a much more solid career path, so I obviously chose those two things.
Wow, you're blowing my mind. I like what Bruce Lee says on one of his videos. So like, you need to be like water. You put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water in a bowl, it becomes the bowl. Be water, my friend. And that's what like most of us are like. You know, you need to like adapt to situations and go with the flow. Maybe learn a different skill by yourself, or like take a different course, and to improve the amount of skills you have so you can grow.
That's the number one thing that is such an important life skill that is so rarely taught, is adaptability. And the fact that I was just talking to Dan actually a couple days ago, and I told him that in a particular business decision we were making, we had to figure out the tuck and roll. And he was like, what's a tuck and roll? And I was like, you ever heard, like, when you need to jump from a moving vehicle? And he's like, why do you know about how to jump from a moving vehicle? I was like, these are important things to know. When you jump from a moving vehicle, you have to tuck into fetal position and roll out of the way of the accident. It's how I got into a massive accident in Bali and was tuck and rolled my way out of it.
Exactly, like no more stuff. And even before the interview, like we were saying how sometimes it's not comfortable, right? I was even telling her, like, I don't know why, but I got nervous. And I'm still a bit nervous right now. And even though you're feeling that, you need to try to do it despite of the fear or the feeling. And like, no, for example, like speaking in public is terrifying for a lot of people. Being on camera can be terrifying too. But the more you do it, the more you feel comfortable with, and you can control your body better.
That's like the biggest part of adaptability and everything else is nothing is comfortable the first time you do it. You know, I don't know of anything other than maybe eating strawberry ice cream. I really enjoyed the first time I did it. But you keep going at it, you keep trying, and the more new things that you do end up trying, it's kind of weird, the easier trying new things gets. If you make that a consistent in your life, then the uncomfortableness is a whole new level of uncomfortableness.
Yeah, because one of the things that I think is the biggest lie and mistake that people tell you when you're young is when you go to class and people say like, yeah, I didn't study, and they take a A+. And I had a friend of mine, he went to give a speech on the stage and was amazed. He's like, yeah, I didn't practice. Or even Steve Jobs, before giving the key speeches, he took 7 days looking at the whole theater, the lighting, practicing to make the moment better than it would be without practice. Like, we gotta practice.
You have to practice with everything in life, including making yourself uncomfortable. You have to practice. You never get good at something by ignoring it. So you do have to keep on practicing at it to be able to achieve any level. It's one of the number one things people ask me, how do I become a better writer? And it's the worst advice that anyone can give, but it's the only advice that any writers can give is just write. Yeah. Like, the only way I got to be any good at writing is I've been writing consistently every day for 15 years.
Wow.
If I sucked still, I would just need to find a new career path very quickly.
Or keep writing, or keep learning.
Exactly. Like, maybe I'm only at like a half level at this point in time.
Like, writing for Forbes like came accidentally. But one of the things that you had a blog. Blogging is way different than than 5 years ago. It's not like just telling you about your life and how you feel and how many cats you saw during the day, but it's a platform that you can demonstrate your work or the skills, your mentality, even for businesses. It can give like business strategies and can actually connect with people on a stronger level. So guys, if you can, try to do something, you know, like every voice is a unique voice.
Absolutely. People have stories to tell. Everyone has a story. Whether it's a personal story or professional story, even companies and businesses have their own stories to tell. The truth of the matter is, exactly as you said, it's going to take work. Yeah. I talked to a number of people who kind of understand the idea of blogging and the idea of social networking, but when it comes to pulling the trigger, they're just like, I just don't have the time. But how did you become a writer? And I'm like,
Exactly.
I'm so sorry, we're not connecting. It's a very easy thing to do. The only thing that it takes is you.
Do you see freelancing, digital entrepreneurship, and being able to work anywhere, independence, location, style, being some kind of a new revolution that we have right now?
I absolutely do. There's I've written about it before, kind of in terms of times of history. I feel very much the machine brought about the Industrial Revolution. So, you know, no longer were people dependent on...
The machinery anymore?
Actually, just any type of machinery, like factories, machines. No longer were people, like, having to be out in the fields doing all of the work themselves. You know, blacksmiths didn't need to smith their own stuff constantly. People started creating machines that would do this stuff. And so it was a completely different work environment. Now, you had people who were no longer... Everyone was doing manual labor. You had people managing the machines. And then the next revolution that really came about was when computers brought about the corporate office revolution. So again, no longer did you have people working in factories and working in the fields and working at these plants and these places that this stuff needed to be done. You had people now going even a step further, working at computers in offices, managing the machines that were now doing the work that the people used to do. And so I really see the laptop and the laptop in part with such available internet being the next mechanism of a new new revolution in work. And that revolution being that people are no longer tied to the offices anymore. If you have a laptop and a Wi-Fi connection, you can work from anywhere.
Even like if you have a company, you have employees there and you work in an office, most people think that you need to have your staff there together so you can control them. And I remember that, and everything is about communication, how you communicate to your employee or to a freelancer on how you're gonna get the task done and done as soon as possible. I've been to many meetings, and the last meeting there was the owner of the company, and he was British. So he was like, yeah, let's find the solution for the thing here. And you know what I mean? It's like, okay. So I gave a solution that I thought was the best solution possible for that task. And then we went around the table and everybody was seeing pros and cons. And like, it was like, it never finished. And I was like, oh my God, like that's my time. My time is limited. I gotta be doing something. And then like he was saying, yeah, maybe like this solution A not gonna work because of this and this and this, and solution B is not that good because of that. You know what I mean? We're here for 1 hour. I could mount a squeeze page, get leads, test if your business was profitable or not, and even maybe actually like make some money in this 1 hour. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So everything is how you communicate. And now you have Skype, you have Google Hangout, you have email, you have structured ways of communicating with people. It's really good to rethink the way we are doing business and connecting to employees in general. And that's what ends up happening as soon as you get a ton of employees into a room, is that everyone feels like they have to say something because you're in the room. Yeah. Regardless of whether you have anything useful to contribute or not, especially in a situation like that where everyone's going around the table, like you don't want to be that idiot employee who has nothing to say in the conversation.
wherein the digital communications, because they happen so infrequently, you really end up trying to make the most of your interactive time. For example, working with Tropical MBA and Dynamite Circle, we have a team of anywhere, given what phone call it is, from like 5 to 8 or 9 people on our team. We get on the phone once a week. I think Dan and I have been in the same country, not even location, the same country, maybe 8 months of the past 2 years.
Yeah, so like Dan right now is in Saigon, and you're here in Chiang Mai.
Yep, Dan and Ian, who own the company, are in Saigon. I'm in Chiang Mai. I'm usually the lone wolf, kind of out. Ian's usually in San Diego, which is a completely different continent. And then we have contractors and team members all over. So, and it works for us because we basically realize that whenever we get an opportunity to get on Skype with each other, or whenever we're sending an email to each other or something like that, the most important thing that we can, we kind of drill it down to the most salient points as quickly as possible. There's a lot of bullet pointed emails going back and forth in our organization because we don't really need to have long drawn out conversations. We just need to figure out what needs to be said and then what needs to be done to move forward.
Yeah, exactly. I had freelancers from different countries, from Bangladesh, Malaysia, America, Philippines, India, and I just love the way we communicate because, you know, like it's not like wasting time over the communication. We send the bullet points, like what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. Oh, like clarify this point. Clarify the point, done. Okay, like, and then the test starts. There's no much like trying to be nice, you know, trying to, hey, how was your day? Yeah, today, oh, my back hurts, you know, and like, oh, my kids are sick. And you enter in the different kind of communication that's not very productive for the task at that moment in time. And one thing that I really loved about your blog, I have a friend of mine, and he was saying, like, Marcus, if you need to make your life like a book. If you're going to write a book about your life, like, make it like a book. And I saw your blog, and you say, life is too short and beautiful to live the average.
Yep.
Give, like, one final message to inspire everybody about it.
Having my background in creative writing, I've done a lot of creative writing, most of it unpublished, unpublishable. No one should have to read what I've written at this point. But I am very much a believer in our lives are stories. Our lives are basically a compilation of stories. Every day you wake up, you have a new chapter. And so the only way that you can do that is to really embrace the fact that you're the author of your own life. And so I, think about, would I want to read a book that's boring and average and, the main character doesn't really do anything? Would I want to read a book that's so busy and frantic that I can't follow along with anything that's going on? No, like, you find a nice balance of the two and make sure that you're never settling for what life should be instead of really aspiring to what life could be.
Wow, that's amazing. Guys, that's Elisa. Thank you very much for
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm really honored because she's a very interesting person. She's actually like making it happen, living remotely, inspiring more people. And if you guys can follow her blog or the Forbes column, mm-hmm. It's like fantastic, like reading, like no grammar mistakes too. This girl is good.
And also check out Tropical MBA because I do a lot over there as well.
Awesome. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And
thank you.
See you guys soon.